Hello and welcome. We're here at Enterprise TV, continuing our coverage of the Days of Rage, which began in Nigeria this morning under the banner of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. It's the first day in the month of August, but as far as the memory goes, Nigeria never had such an August month that was greeted by a massive tide of citizen agitation for a better nation. Welcome to Homo Politicus. Today, I am Choma Okohia, and today I'm standing in for your regular host, Citizen Jones Hussein. Now, what's going on in Nigeria is that citizens are marching across the country to seek a better life. They are enraged by hunger, inflation, hardship, rising cost of living, injustice, government insensitivity, and a host of other vices that, to put it mildly, have been visited on them by the state itself. Let's begin with this conversation. We had moments ago with Enterprise TV's Henry Igubike, who's covering the protest in Lagos.
Right now, we are at the seat of authority in Lagos State, Nigeria, and the government house, and of course, Lagos State House of Assembly. The Commissioner of Police just left the scene here, and if you can hear in the background, protesters are chanting, of course, asking for the government to come and address them. But of course, the Commissioner of Police who addressed the protesters said that they should go to a confined place where the security would be guaranteed. But of course, the protesters said no, that they have the right according to the constitution to protest wherever they want to protest. And of course, when the commissioner felt he couldn't handle them any longer, he had to allow them to do what they have to do. But of course, right about now, the police is about beginning to form a human barricade to see if they can maybe push the people out of this particular place. That's what's happening right about now. Protesters have been very peaceful, and just as I can see here, no one is holding anything. The only people that are armed to the feet, of course, are the police force. So there's no form of confrontation in any way.
What does the size of the protesters look like? Are they in the hundreds? What do you think their size is?
Well, what I can see now, the protesters are less than 70. They're less than 70. In fact, about 40 to about 50. But you can't imagine it. The number of police force, the police force here are about 30 to 40. In fact, equal the number of protesters. And of course, this begs the question if really the police is afraid of the protesters that are, of course, not holding anything. And that's basically what's happening. Just like I told you, the police force is about to form a human barricade so they can maybe force the protesters out of this particular venue. The protesters basically are asking for either the Speaker House of Assembly to come address them or the governor himself, because since they are close to their offices, that they felt that it's important that one of them should come and address them. But of course, just like we know, it will be difficult to have any of those personalities. The only person that has come to address them is the Commissioner of Police. Well, at about this time, we've not seen any personality from the government except the Commissioner of Police himself. But we're still waiting to see if any of them would come, and that's of course what the protesters are asking for. That at least someone should come and speak to them, but of course no one is around to speak to them.
My guests today are Evan Sufeli, who is a barrister, and Emeka Madunago. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, earlier we had this conversation this morning on Enterprise Morning, and looking at the recent developments, a lot of Nigerians are out on the street. Though it started as though the security agents were like a threat because of how they were deployed at different protest stations that the citizens wanted to go to protest. But recently, from the recent stories that scattered all over social media and from our reporter who was at the state secretariat at Alausa, he called in and he told us how the citizens gathered and were waiting for at least one government official to come out to give them, at least to just address them, but they were not addressed. And the citizens talked about, our reporter gave us a revelation on how one of the commissioners came out to address citizens, telling them to go to the place where they want them to protest. And the citizens insisted that they are going to be at that particular place until a government official come out to actually address them. Now, for the citizens to ask for an address at this time, is it wrong?
No, it was, he said, I could hear when he said that the police commissioner of Lagos State
came out to
addressed them, yes. And, but there's no government official other than the police commissioner that have come to address them. And as that's same, it appears to me that the government officials are not even ready to show up. Many of them are not even in their offices for fear of being mobbed and the rest of that. But I think it's quite wrong when people protest. Okay, there is a need to, at least make an address. Okay, they are there expressing their grievances, and this is a matter that affects all. Okay. Even the lawmakers, the government officials, they have extended family members that are also engulfed in this whole thing. They have communities where they come from. They have constituencies, okay, where poor people are, people who have been affected by the thoughtless policies of this government. And so these government officials ought to join forces with the people to register their displeasure and ask for a better society. That is what they should do. But I mean, like we see in developed countries where at the rise of the cost of living, you find prime ministers resigning, you find government officials leaving the office and apologizing to people, telling them that they could have done better, but they have failed. They failed the people, they failed themselves, they failed their country, therefore they have no other choice but to resign. But what do we have here? Here, our Senate president told us yesterday that while we'll be protesting today, they will be eating in their houses. That's what he said. That's what he has to say. So the level of insensitivity of our leaders, the wickedness, okay, the lack of empathy and compassion, which are actually the attribute of leadership, is far-reaching, such that they have no feeling, they have no concern. As long as their own bread is buttered, any other person can go to hell. And you cannot lead people too long with that narrative. Okay, you can't lead people too long. So in some places, we have been told that police are using tear gas on protesters. You see this narrative, or you see now, we have to be cautious. I want to take note of this. The police have introduced violence now into this thing. The police have introduced violence once again. The last one, the government used the soldiers to introduce violence. We cautioned before today that the government should stop introducing violence into protests. They have started it again now. If this leads to a breakdown of law and order, they will turn around tomorrow and say that the citizens took the laws into their hands. So let's record this, so that when the time comes, we'll have enough evidence to show that protest was going on peacefully before police came and started using tear gas. And that's violence. Okay,
thank you, Barrister Feli. Now, over to you, Emeka Madinago. We've heard reports of protesters. There's some places in Lagos, the protest is going peacefully. And Lekki, for example, especially looking at the story that it holds for 2020 October. And this day, 1st August 2024, peaceful protesters are being dispersed with tear gas. At this point, we'll ask, have we learned our lesson going back to 2020?
No, Nigerian leaders never learn any lesson. That is why they remain steeped in ignorance, superstition, corruption, and misgovernance. They never learn any lesson, even though they go to the best schools in the world. They just come back and, they don't exhibit nothing, and that's why you see the police suddenly, developing muscles when it has to do with protests. But they can't confront armed robbers. They run away from armed robbers. They can't confront herdsmen who have taken over the forest. They can't confront bandits. They can't even keep their barracks clean. which is so bad. You know, the environment where somebody stays tells you a lot about how that person appreciates himself or herself. Go to police barracks, go to military barracks. So how do you expect people, what kind of mindset do you expect from people living in such places? Now, the government deliberately, is a message, what was called message engineering. The government deliberately keeps its people in squalor. It's not that the government cannot make things better, but government keeps them in squalor, in filth, and then so that they can be used, they can be used to repress fellow citizens who are suffering. Look at Lekki. What happened in Lekki, October 2020, was just simple. The vice president there, Yemi Osinbajo, said on Twitter, now X, that, well, the government had heard them and that, everything will go fine. Let me tell you, if Osinbajo was the acting president at that time, the shootings at Lekki wouldn't have taken place. In fact, NSAS would have been easily, handled. Why? Because there's something called empathy, emotional intelligence, which our leaders lack. They're as brutal as common thugs. But you see, the messages you pass, the optics you give out can calm, any troubled situation. So you are now going out, firing tear gas, and at the end of the day, you will go back to your barracks where you may not even have any food to eat, where you may not even have paid your children's school fees. Now, by their regulations, they have to obey orders. But the question I have for those civilians in government who are using them is that, you see, I've been in journalism for over 30 years. And I have seen paupers become great, prosperous, and still tumble back into the abyss. And I have seen great men, wealthy and everything, become mere paupers. In fact, horrible stories become the epitome of disgraceful living. So they should remember that what they're dishing out to the people today is surely going to come back to haunt them. It's about history. And the sad thing is that men don't learn from history. That's the greatest tragedy. Men don't learn from history. And that's why you say all this is happening. What are people saying? Look at the demands of the protesters. Tell me which of them is not a legitimate demand. But they've hired hungry Nigerians. And asked them to go and say, first, they said first, one ignorant presidential aide said it's Peter Obi and his supporters. Then later, no, it's Igbos. Then they just keep shifting narrative. And then at a point, you begin to pity these people that, these people are suffering some form of disconnection, psychological disconnection. And you pity them because why? They know in themselves that their children look at them when they come back. Their children know what is happening. They watch CNN, they watch BBC, they watch Enterprise TV, they watch different stations. And then they hear what their parents say. And these children know that something is, there's a disconnection. How do such people face their children? Knowing that their children know that they are liars. So, you see, the Nigerian people will always triumph. At least, thank God, today we are better informed about our problems. The solution is not far.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Madnazo. Over to you, Barrister Feli. Now, looking at the recent happenings, if we take it outside Lagos, even in Abuja, some protesters were tear-gassed, and in Lekki, this is day one. Subsequently, we still have about 9 days to go. Now, how far do you see this snowballing with this recent development of the police or the security agents, for example, that are supposed to protect the citizens and are now against
the
them?
citizens have added just one item to the demand. It is that if one citizen is killed or arrested, they will change the demands to Tinubu must go. Okay, so that is, the notice is there. It's out there for everybody to see clearly. And this is very wrong. I just listened to one of the protesters being interviewed now, and he told the press that he rather die on the protest ground than to die at home. Because whichever way is going to die. Okay? So, but he preferred to die on the protest ground than to die at home. So there's a woman who came with pots, okay, to protest, show that this is a case of hopelessness. There is a picture of school children who are on school uniform, but they are different places, mourning, hungry, and crying. There's a woman that came out with a baby. The baby is hungry, okay? And the stories are all over the place. Very touching stories. Under this condition, they are renovating the vice president's house with billions, 21 billion or thereabout. They are buying private jets. Senators are taking money to buy luxury cars. And the wastages is all over the place. But there is no time this government have come together to make one policy to alleviate the poverty of the people. One policy. Rather, the government came into office and took the only thing, which is subsidy, that the citizens benefit from this government, took it off, okay? Left the citizens in utter distress, and then turned around to tell them to give them more time. More time to do what exactly? More time to impoverish the people. Okay, so this protest is very valid, okay? And I'm sorry for the policemen that are using tear gas on citizens. I'm sorry for them because their children are also in the protest ground. Okay? They live the worst kind of life so far in this country. They have no accommodation. They have no place of abode. They have nothing to their name. If they die today, there's no insurance. Nothing whatsoever. Okay? And they have the guts to fire. I mean, these citizens are protesting for the law enforcement agents. That's how I see it. This protest is not for one person.
But talking about the citizens protesting for the law enforcement agent, now, if we go down memory lane, just a few weeks back, there was a complaint that the PSC, the names of those that were actually qualified to go into the police force were not on the list. They were the people that were shortlisted and the wrong ones that are now put in. Now, at this point, I'm looking at how the police security agents, for example, are being used. Don't you think the government in quotes or those who are in charge are actually putting in those who they feel can dance to the tune of the music?
No, what they are doing is police recruitment, army recruitment, everything in Nigeria has turned to survivor. In those days, in the 80s, in the 70s, where my father joined the Air Force. My father left Shell. My dad was the chief cook in Shell in Escravos. It was after the war. He refused to return to Shell because his own roommate was killed. He was on night duty. The roommate, my dad was on day. The roommate did night. So while he was sleeping, some people pointed to that place, to the Nigerian soldiers, that there's one Biafra person there. So they went there, the soldiers went there and woke him from sleep and shot him. That is the person living in the same room with my dad. So my dad got the information from his workplace, and from there, he took off. From Warri, he trekked to my village, from the bush. So because of that, after the war in 1970, my dad now joined the Air Force. Okay. Now, people join force then because they have passion. They have zeal to serve the country. They want to see a better country. Okay. You understand? Part of what my dad told us was that he needed to join the force to ensure that things like this don't happen again, like the Biafra war. So, but today, if you see the kind of people that join police force, especially the women, the kind of people that will join the police are people who have no other thing to do. They have exhausted all their options. Also, it seems that the people they take into the police, they take anybody, as long as you have one connection or the other. That is why somebody made a statement that those who pass the test are not on the list. That the ones who are on the list are the ones that are unteachable and untrainable. Those are the people they are packaging for police force, for the future of Nigeria. So you see that our problem is not just what it appears to me that what we're going through is just an introduction. It appears to me that our problem is tighter in the future, but something has to happen. The new generation of people we have today have already identified, of course, already many youths in this country have bypassed the Nigerian economy, either for good or for bad. Those ones doing Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, would you say they are operating in the Nigerian economy? They have used IT and all that to bypass. Some of them have left Nigeria. I mean, IT today, you cannot assemble IT experts in Nigeria today. They've all left. Some of them are working for Nigerian banks from the UK, from the US. Some of them, when they were leaving, the company did not grant their resignation. They asked them to go, but they should work from there. I have a friend like that. My friend is in Australia. He works for a bank here from there. It is that bad. So what it tells you is that the future might be very tight and seem or look close. But this crop of people, I don't think they're even waiting for government employment. I don't think even if government roll out the employment, they'll take it. For the very ones I know that know exactly what they are doing.
Okay, thank you, Barrister Philip, for your time. Now, over to you, Emeka Madnago. Now, let's look at this from the Gen Z angle, because now they've been stating for the past few weeks that, it is coordinated, it's a planned protest that they are trying to actually get to Nigerians and not in the right way. And at this point, looking at how the government is violent towards the protesters, isn't it an irony? I'm not going to say this is an irony at this point.
Well, it's the irony there is that many of those in government today actually enjoyed Nigeria. They enjoyed Nigeria. Some of them went to school on scholarships. There was a time in the University of Ibadan, they were just two in a room, and they had chicken. Yes, for lunch, yes. My father went to University of Ibadan. So, I mean, there was a day my children were going through some of, when after my parents passed, our documents were put in, and they saw some things. I said, what? Was Nigeria so good like this those days? So they saw some things, how my dad in 1975 paid for 2 plots of land in Bariga, for 1,000 naira. And they had this 1,000. So you can imagine. Now, he was a banker at that time. So he was able to, through, you understand, banking facilities and all of that. Now, the irony there is that these people make Nigeria ungovernable, but they ship their children abroad. I'll give you another irony. They tell you that one of the things that help the economy, has been increased. They use that word, increased diaspora remittances. From who? From Nigerians who have jackpot. Nigerians who have, Nigerians who have relocated outside the country. Now look at the irony. The same people have now started setting roadblocks to stop Nigerians from going abroad. You are enjoying increased diaspora remittances, but you're also putting roadblocks in the way. So it just shows you that diabolical idea that we must keep, look, for you to control it, that Machiavellian diabolism, that you must keep the people permanently subjugated. So unless they are poor, and the sad thing is that even some of us also propagate such ideas. It's impossible to do this. And I asked a question, who said? Who said it's impossible? Like a friend of mine asked me a question, that what is the easiest way out of a room? We're thinking, is it door, is it window? He said, an opening. That's the easiest way. Whether it's a door, whether it's a window, whether it's a tunnel, whether it's a whatever. The point is this, it is possible to exit a room. Whether the cup is full or half empty is irrelevant. You have a cup. Now, it's your mindset that will decide, what am I going to do with this cup? So when you look at it, our leaders, when they get into power, they get overrun by the opulence, the wealth, the cars. But they forget one thing, that those things are deceptive entrapments. That's why I say if by accident of history, by mistake, I don't know how that can happen. I get into a political appointment. Let me tell you something. One of the things, I won't take an official quarters. You see this in a official car? Sorry, not me. You know why? Because let me tell you something. Places where I worked, you know what? When I started going into executive position, you know what I did? I wrote my resignation letter, undated, and I kept it. Every day I'll look at it. So it will tell me something. Don't get carried away by whatever you are earning here. Because one day you will get out of that place. And it happened. So the day I just put dates. I walked away. What does it tell you? It is the sum of your personal efforts. What you put into your work, honest labor and all that, that will determine how you progress in life. But you see all these things, all these jeeps, all these police, all these things, those things, anybody wants to keep his sanity should run away from them. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Emeka Madinago. Over to you, Barrister Phil. I think maybe this will be your last question for this particular time. And looking at how this particular issue has been on for a couple of weeks before now, some analysts have actually come out to say that the government official, that's the president, they would actually wait to see how this protest is going to pan out before they address the citizens. And at this point, it makes me wonder, must the president actually wait to see how it turns out? And looking at how it's panning out already, how it's going, do you think by the end of today, the president will address Nigerian citizens?
Well, the demands of the protesters are known to the president already. So whether he addressed the people or not makes no difference really. Okay, for now, because
why?
Because the protest is ongoing. Okay, and under his watch, police have started chasing protesters. Police have introduced violence into it. They have not said anything. They are supposed to call the policemen to order now. Call your policemen to order now. That is what the government need to do, not to address the people. Call your policemen to order. They have introduced violence on day one. So, because if tomorrow the people retaliate, it's going to become, they will turn around and say that it was the citizens, that some persons have come to hijack the protest, and the hijackers have created problem and all that. Mr. President, call your policemen to order. It is very important. This protest is peaceful. These protests have been going on peaceful, at least for the last 5 hours. So we don't need to witness any kind of bloodshed or resistance, as long as people are not violent. The soldiers in Ikeja here and Ojota and Alausa, the policemen there, nobody has hurt any policeman whatsoever. But we are getting feelers from Maiduguri, okay, from Abuja, that they are using tear gas, and from the Lekki toll gate, that the police are using tear gas against the citizens. And they are trying to reenact what has happened in the past, which the citizens have vowed to avoid. So the police should not push. They can remember what happened the last time, how policemen were killed in Ibadan and all those places, how police stations were taken over, ran over, and ammunitions and all that were taken. They should remember that if they push the people to that angle again, the same thing might repeat itself. So let us be guarded. This is a constitutional right. This is a right exercisable under the law. And the citizens have chosen to exercise their rights under the law. Policemen should not obstruct the exercise of that right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barrister Philly. Emeka Madinago, lastly, can you give us a checklist of what will happen or what would actually take the protesters off the streets this very moment? What is that magic wand that can actually...
No, you can't take the protesters off the streets this very moment.
Now, what is that?
The protest has taken off. You had 3 weeks. Government had 3 weeks to avoid the protest. But what were they doing? They were just bringing some comedians. Some comedians. Allow my father to run. As if we elected your father. We elected Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not your father. We don't care whether he has 100 children or we don't care. We don't know them because they are not part of the equation. As a matter of fact, even the idea of saying first lady is an aberration because it's not in the constitution. So we only know Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's all. So start implementing the demands of the protesters. The minimum wage is that you have signed it. Implement it. Begin to implement it. Look at the demands. Begin to implement the demands. What I hear from the streets, people say, yes, government has said you can import food without paying duties. We agree. But what I hear from the streets is that people are saying, open the border. Let people hear government say, semi-border opened. Because they are angry. They are saying that Jibia border in Katsina, some of those northern borders are open, and that food is coming to the north. Whether it's true or not, that is the narrative on the streets. Okay, announce. Owode Dioko border, semi-border opened. Bring in food. That is one. That will cool people down because what it means is that rice. Because rice is the staple, is the easiest food that Nigerians eat every day. Rice will come in. Okay. Say that, okay, Nigerian Republic, from Niger, we are going to import beans because 50% of the beans we consume in Nigeria comes from Nigerian Republic. We are going to import beans massively. Use words deliberately. Use words deliberately. Okay. Look at all the demands one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Scrap the Senate. Okay. Well, these are things that will take time, but we will look into it. Like they say on the streets, I don't hear, no, they cause quarrel. But let the people see that when you say we've heard, you said we're addressing your... No. They want to see action. And if they call it hunger, hardship, address that hunger and hardship first. And I'm telling them this is what I'm getting from the streets. Open the borders. Let food come in massively. When food comes in massively, it will reduce the tension. Then you can now, on a going basis, start addressing the issues. Now, look at the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, elected by the people, but he has forgotten. Now, he said, we will let them protest, we'll be eating. You know what eating means in Nigerian politics. And now that tells you, number 3 man, it tells you how much he appreciates the fact that he was elected. But the same Godswill Akpabio, don't be surprised, today he will apologize. You look at in the last few weeks, because Akpabio has made gaffe after gaffe, apologizing. And I think, please, his aides should restrict how he uses the microphone. They should tell him, please, because you see, or maybe they should be using prepared text for him. Because he's embarrassing the office of Senate
As
President.
a child that he is.
So, very simple. Announce we are going to open the borders. Okay, we have opened the borders. Let food come in, whether from seaport or airport or land border. Specifically mention semi-border, Owode Dioko. I'm telling you, Choma, write it down. If the government announces it today, you will see people will say, okay, let's suspend and give government time. Let food come in. Then on the issue of fuel, it's very simple. You have said that NNPC should give Dangote fuel, Abi. Bring Aliko Dangote to come out and say, yes, we have received a letter from NNPC to come and start carrying crude. And that in the next few weeks, in the next 1 week or so, we're going to pump fuel massively into the Nigerian market and we believe prices will come down. That's another thing that will make, okay, let's give them time. Some of these things are just things they can easily pick from the streets. But you see, when people are being blinded, like Yorubas will say that, that when elders eat too much dodo, their throats become blocked and they cannot speak ododo, or that is, they cannot speak the truth. And that is where the problem is. But let these elders know, they are closer to the grave than the younger ones. So, whatever is facing them is the grave. Let them redress the situation right now.
Okay. Thank you, Bar. Thank you. Thank you, Meka Madnago. Thank you so much. And it's still Homo Politicus. It's been an interesting one here. But that's all we have for you in Homo Politicus today. I want to say thank you to Barrister Felix
My pleasure.
for your time, and also Meka Madnago.
Thank you very much.
And at this point, we'll ask Will this end just like it did in the year 2020 at the October 2020 at the toll gate? You can join us by subscribing to our pages on social media. We are at Enterprise TV 7. Visit our website at www.enterprisetv7. Up next is the news update. To stay well, I'm Choma Okohe.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.